Okay. Hello, and welcome to another episode of VR Download. In case you're new here, each week we meet here in virtual reality using the latest technology to discuss the next generation of personal computing. I am your bespectacled host today, Kyle Riesenbeck, filling in for Ian Hamilton, who is normally the host. I'm joined by my colleague, Ian Hamilton, who is filling in for David Heaney. This is fun.
I'm seeing that. Yeah, I'm seeing it mentioned that your mic is crackling. I am hearing that too, Kyle. So I don't know what that is. That's not even the popping. That's just straight up crackling.
No,
so I have no idea what that is. But do you have a Quest 2 handy if you need to?
I don't. The Quest 2 is was bequeathed to someone else. So I mean, I can
talk a little bit quieter, maybe.
All right. Well, I mean,
just do it a whispering, like you love those ASMR videos. So
I do. So hello, everyone. I'll be nice and quiet here. Now I'll probably be able to talk in normal mode here. So yeah, very softly. All right. Well, anyway, we're here in the proprietary Upload Virtual Studios. That's where we are. This is something that we built and you can't have. We're broadcasting live on YouTube, so we can see all of the comments and everything. Hello to those of you on YouTube. Feel free to post comments and questions during the show, and we'll address it. VR Download is also syndicated, so it's on all podcast platforms. And if you like this type of quality programming to continue, we need your support by liking, subscribing, and obviously sharing all of your upload links to your friends. But in order for us to do this, we do have a paid sponsor for this episode. It's Veil VR. Veil VR just released in early access on Steam. It's a VR first-person shooter built with immersive physics, full-body animations and skins. Climb, vault, ride zip lines, and defy gravity on jump pads to achieve victory. In this 5x5 competitive shooter, Veil VR was built from the ground up with the community's input every step of the way. From standardizing player height to preventing play space cheats, this game has made huge improvements to the standard free VR first-person shooter experience. It's available now on Steam, and their next esports tournament starts in January. So now, I guess. To find out more, check out their Steam page in the description of this video, which will be in there. So, Hi, Ian. It's nice to be in the same room with you for the first time since CES. We were in CES together. And I noticed that you did put this up here. UploadVR YouTube members, John Westra, Dunadeem, Smashed Reality, Robert, 360, Rick, Sexy Bicycle, Skiva, Andrew, Handy, Clay, ACP Plays, Marcellus Ryan, Mark, Joseph Gravity, Joe, Da Pancake, Quentin, Andrew, King Jellyfish, Honglan, The Lucky Dogs Band, Aaron, Captain Clutch, that's funny, Lazarus, James, Anthony Mann, Mark, and another Anthony. So hello to all the Anthonys out there and everyone else who are members. We really appreciate your support. So Ian, we're here. Now Heaney is off on a secret mission, what we can't discuss. So that's why he's not
here. David is off on a secret
I'm sorry,
mission.
David Heaney. His name is David. His name is David. This is like Fight Club. His name is David. Okay. Yeah. So hi to everyone out there. Yes, it is me. I am here trying to be, I guess, passive voice. So everything I will say happened before. Passive voice, not active. So anyway, Ian, we got some fun stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the donation there from Midlife Kid. We need software, not hardware, but we will take what we can get. Thank you. And yeah, thank you to all of our members out there. I'm sorry if you've recently become a member. I haven't updated the slide yet. I'll get it updated soon. Yeah, we're going to be covering Quest hand tracking 2.1. That should be an awesome. Yeah, awesome.
Did you just zip out? What happened?
I somehow did the menu gesture or something when I wiggled my fingers and I bumped right out of reality. Yeah.
See,
awesome.
you did what I did earlier, which was because you were counting and you were like 5, 4, and counting down, and I did that. And when I did that, I think that's what booted me out, and you just did it too.
Yeah, nice. That's pretty touchy. That's gonna be an ugly one. Yeah. So, Quest hand tracking 2.1, Microsoft's huge job cuts that laid waste to the VR and AR teams over there. There's also Apple shelving its long-term AR glasses, as well as a lot of details about how the VR-based system is going to work that's coming out this year, or expected to come out this year. And then we're going to wrap up this show talking about some of our experiences at CES that we both did. So I think it's going to take us a little while to get through some of this stuff. There's a lot of discussion to have around some of these subjects. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in this week. And I hopefully won't be popping too much. My little wind guards fell off my Quest Pro this week. So let me know if the puzz there are too bad. Hello, Alex, in our comments. Thank you for tuning in. Indie Soul, Andrew, everyone. Onikazi, a lot of our regular viewers, Mark Kukowski.
What I find odd is, and again, it's very difficult for me to use my indoor voice. I have little pop filters on mine, but apparently I'm too loud still. Even with being restricted, my voice is still emanating out into the metaverse so loud, and I don't know. I guess I just have that kind of voice. I don't know what to do.
Gosh.
I don't know what to do.
Yeah, you gotta program yourself to speak ASMR just by default.
I just can't. I find myself
whispering in the ears of our audience.
I can't do it. It sounds creepy.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. Well, thank you for agreeing that. Yes, MAME fan. Us loud people. We. I don't know what to do. I just don't know what to do. I have one of those voices. It's a curse and a blessing, all the same. Well, anyway, let's talk about this Quest hand tracking 2.1, which reduces tracking loss and improves stability. I'm so far, I don't know if this app is actually supporting it.
I tried to double check with David before we came in here to see what this should be an automatic upgrade for developers that already have Quest 2.0 hand tracking installed. So it should just not require anything, and then you just get the improved hand tracking if you've already got that implemented. But I didn't confirm. I think I'm feeling it here. I think I'm getting it. Look at that. Look at that, Kyle.
Oh.
That's I don't think I've seen that sort of
but that's
thing
not
happen before.
That's not what breaks hand tracking, okay? Are you ready for this? Are you ready for this, everyone? Here's how you break hand tracking. I don't care what system you have. This always breaks hand tracking. And this will be the secret is if your sensors can handle this. Are you ready for this? Are you ready? I'm about to break the best hand tracking possible. There you go. See? You can't have a hand with two thumbs, and so as soon as you put them, it's like an eclipse occurring. As soon as it sees two thumbs, kaboom! Your hand goes off into the cosmos.
Yeah, well, I don't know how. I like the ways you can kill the hand tracking are always humorous, but I don't know. I'm pretty impressed by this. This is pretty nice. I was reaching out to the Helping Hands volunteer that I had a video with back in late last year when they rolled out 2.0 hand tracking over in VR chat. So I'm hopeful that it should just be the same thing over in VR chat, where if they had the 2.0 hand tracking, it should just upgrade to the higher quality hand tracking. And I have this video with this sign language communicator teacher from VR chat community, and she's demonstrating hand tracking and signing. And I made the mistake of just not getting the camera just right for that video, and using a distracting background, because if you don't have a good contrast between the background and foreground, it's not really great to see the hand. So as soon as we can, I'm going to try to get back in there in hand tracking 2.1 in VR chat and record another video showcasing this communication scheme. There's a lot of motions from the body outward, and from this area down to even your legs, that need to be captured for sign language communication to be really effective. And it'll be really interesting to see how far.
Uh-oh, we lost him again, didn't we? See, you keep messing around with the hand tracking, and this is what you get.
Oh my gosh.
You did it again.
Did you pop
man.
out too?
I did not. I did not,
okay.
because I wasn't, throwing up gang signs with my hands.
Well,
See, you can't really throw up any good gang signs.
yeah, so I'm sorry, Artful. Apparently, YouTube has stopped alerting people to our shows, and I think it's because we clicked the includes paid sponsorship button for the sponsor. So I think we'll probably get that back when the sponsorship expires, if we go a couple weeks without having a sponsor. But yeah, apparently hand tracking also breaks me. I love that. Oops, I did it again. Yep. But I think it's a massive, massive improvement, and I think it's only going to get better from here. David joked with me that calling this high quality hand tracking will look like a joke soon enough, and I get that. But it's still kind of amazing to see the improvements week in and week out. It's funny, when I do this, my hand starts to shake for me visually. I don't know if that comes across to the viewers out there, but that's funny.
Yeah. I mean, mine shake too, but I think it's just from that 8th cup of coffee that I had. So I don't know. Well, I mean, hand tracking. I've always been a big fan of the idea of wearing a glove, maybe with different something on them. I'd wear a couple cool little blingy rings on my fingers, or a multicolored glove or something like that, just to be able to have perfect hand tracking. And it's just not possible. Indie Soul here is saying that we need foot tracking, and the other part of his comment as well. I think, honestly, I really agree with you. I think that foot tracking, actually, what I think we need more than foot tracking, or even legs in most social VR experiences? I think we need elbow tracking. I mean, IK inverse kinematics, it just really struggles with elbows. I mean, you would not know that right now, other than my hands moving in and out, that I'm waving my elbows up and down like I'm a chicken trying to take off, and you can't see it. And as a result of that, doing other motions, you just struggle, and it makes you look all contorted and weird when you move around. But yes, footsie VR is definitely down the list, 2 or 3 maybe.
Yeah, we'll get into this later in the show, sort of where what we're demonstrating right now, how it relates to what Apple seems to be preparing. And I think as the picture has come together about what Apple's preparing, it kind of points out how dramatically we should expect this to get better on the meta side of things in the next year, just from the competitive pressure. I think we'll get to that as soon as we get to it.
Yeah, Onakazi says elbows should be able to be inferred. The problem is I've never seen it done well. the only time I've ever been tracked well is when I had, somebody picked me up by the nape of my neck and dipped me in IMUs. And then that was, that's the only way you're really going to get that type of superior tracking. And there are suits and things like that out there. But, you need, I don't know, in my opinion, 9 points of tracking for some solid performance. I'm just kind of pulling that randomly.
Oh, you just, one. So what I've heard is it's like, one for each feet. I guess if you want the knees with the level of detail that you get out of, the elbows, I could get it. 9, I guess 9 makes sense. It's just, it gets better and better over time. But, the improvements of these machine learning algorithms are pretty profound, it seems, with each generation. And I don't know, that the waist, the feet, and then if you can get the elbows without, with just the hands, that would be impressive.
Yeah.
I wonder what these cameras are really capable of picking up there. They may just not be tuned for looking for those elbows, and I think that it's not high on the priority list.
I mean, I would very easily and gladly wear multiple points of tracking to be able to do this. I mean, it's not that big of a deal, even if you start incorporating it into maybe like a nice cardigan sweater that I can put on that has all the tracking pieces. Maybe a sweatsuit. Maybe they could sell like a VR sweatsuit that you just put on. You look like an old man going out for a walk, and you're actually having your stuff tracked. And it's, I think they could do that.
Well, that brings me back to the Apple thing. I always think about that battery in the pocket, just weighing down those sweatpants and the horrible situation it causes.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get to the Apple thing because I've got comments, lots and lots of comments on that. All right. Well, I don't know how much more there is that we can say about the hand tracking other than the fact that it is a, constantly progressing technological aspect of our everyday virtual lives. And the metaverse requires better tracking of body parts. It is a necessity, and they will continue to do so. Fingers first, then toes, who knows, elbows, eyes, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. I don't know. I think I sung that with my kids at one point.
You're back on the show for for 5 minutes, and you're singing nursery rhymes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Well, so all right. Let's move on because Microsoft. Yes, we moved from nursery rhymes to Microsoft. That's a good transition. Microsoft did some crazy news. Like, it was one thing after another, and it wasn't just Microsoft. There were other companies too, kind of sweeping in and kind of eliminating all sorts of workers. I mean, a lot of our audience, Ian, found themselves without a job this past week. I've noticed, not just Microsoft, but other companies as well, just kind of hacking and slashing through some of their employee numbers, thousands of people. And I mean, I've been on that line before. I've had to deal with the news of, hey, your job's being eliminated, your entire department, here's some brand new boxes that we found, clean it out, clean out your desk, and off you go. Severance packages or whatever, be damned. It sucks to have to not have a job. And my heart goes out to all of you who lost your jobs in the last week or so from tech companies. I mean, really, seriously, if you need a shoulder to cry on, hit me up in the DMs. But I mean, it really sucks. It really sucks, Ian.
It is brutal out there, and I got to talk about some of these comments because they're cracking me up. They're saying that you can't control the talent, which I love that comment about you going off on your various songs, Kyle, and Artful saying we miss having Kyle to keep us young, and then I got to talk about Funky, and where was the other one about Bluey? Artful mentioning Bluey. I think Kyle's kids are too old for Bluey, if I had to guess.
Yeah,
but
no,
they are. That show is huge in my house. Every dad out there should aspire to be Bandit. I aspire to be Bandit. That show is phenomenal. If you haven't
Yeah,
watched it,
I personally do not watch Bluey. My youngest child would much rather be in Rec Room than watching that sort of thing. So we're past that. We got out of that phase right before Paw Patrol started to get big with the kids. So I missed all that as well. Yeah, I know. I feel very fortunate.
Paw Patrol. Don't compare Paw Patrol to Bluey, okay?
Well, I'm just saying.
Don't. That's offensive.
Well,
that's one of the most offensive things I've heard.
Okay. Well, old dad, young dad conversation. We can do that as a whole nother podcast. But no, I know what Bluey is. So I have little nieces that watch Bluey, and everything's Bluey. As a matter of fact, and these are kids from the Midwest. I swear they're all getting Australian accents from watching these shows. Yeah, which cool beans. So talking about Bluey and how ridiculous I am in the middle of me talking about Microsoft and so many people laying off.
I'm sorry. The commenters are going to do what their commenters are going to talk about what they're going to talk about. Let's get back to the subject at hand. All right.
Totally get it. So, I considered doing a eulogy for AltSpace. And then I realized technically it died in 2017, and then Microsoft picked up its carcass and wiped it off and put it on the shelf next to the Xbox and all the other products that they have. AltSpace, I hadn't logged into AltSpace in, I don't know, at least 2 years. I don't know if that's a big deal or not. I don't know how many people were using AltSpace. I know that a buddy of mine, Kyle Render, who just happens to be named Kyle, the Failed to Render comedy show, did some things in AltSpace, and now I think he's moved on to bigger and better horizons. But yeah, AltSpace is dead. Windows Mixed Reality is what? Dead?
Well, no. All right. Well, hold on a sec. We're still trying to get information on sort of how this is going down. I've reached out as much as I could to my sources and tried to figure out all this stuff. So there's multiple teams. It sounds like AltSpace and the Mixed Reality Toolkit teams. So that's the team building sort of an open source multi-device framework to get devs started with their work on multiple devices and supporting multiple devices. Those teams are more or less kaput. They're dead. The question is whether everyone in mixed reality over there is gone. And I reached out to Microsoft, tried to find out if they could share more. They basically referred me to the public comment from the CEO. And the CEO's comment says they're going to have changes to their hardware portfolio. Now, we obviously last week we covered the IVAS, the IVAS, HoloLens-based augmented reality work for the U.S. military, and that's had a bumpy road, right? That's not had a sort of a really smooth transition into a really huge revenue stream for Microsoft. And then, of course, going back a couple months between what David and I have been talking about in this show multiple times, but late last year, the HP Reverb G2 went on a dramatic discount, and that's the last mixed reality, VR-based mixed reality headset from Microsoft, supported by the Microsoft system. So all indications there, when I reached out and asked about that, the comment from them was that work is ongoing. The active development was the words I asked, and they said that, yeah, there is active development there. I don't think that's necessarily true here. The reason I've given all that context there is because we don't know what the restructured Microsoft looks like just yet. Microsoft is still figuring that out, right? They have to kind of reset their costs, which is what they've done. They've laid off 5% of their workforce, just a massive amount of people, 10,000 people all in one go. just suddenly shown the door at Microsoft, and some of them after many, many years working for Microsoft. And that's absolutely horrible for a lot of those people. People look at it and go, see a lot of positives. Some people look at that and see positives. Those people who were let go will go and, in many cases, fund startups or start startups that could generate the next little bit of, whatever, like new software, new hardware could be rushed into being because these people were basically freed of their time at meetings. That was one tweet I saw about one of the projects that basically got shut down. Was this person saying, actually, my open source, I think it was Stereo Kit project, that Stereo Kit project might actually develop faster because that person no longer has to go to meetings. And so they might be filing more frequent updates to GitHub because of that. But it's still, it's this open question of timing. And I think we'll come back to that again when we get a little bit later in this show and we get into this next subject talking about Apple. How quickly can Microsoft pull together a cohesive strategy here for these next few years? And I'm going to throw up an image pretty soon here that kind of pulls together a lot of this conversation. But Microsoft from the very beginning used this mixed reality naming scheme. They called their whole platform mixed reality, and they meant for it to extend from the HoloLens see-through optics to the VR-based opaque optics that had like a few mixed reality features, like a flashlight camera, or a flashlight you could look through and see your environment with the flashlight. Are they ready to use those things for anything interesting in this next phase, or did they do it at like just the wrong time? Do they not have the structure in place to benefit in some way from this market, which really seems to be on the verge of maturing in a really significant way?
So I'll give my 2 cents on this. And for those of you who are not aware, I started off cutting my development teeth and improving my chops by working at different boutiques, which would produce VR experiences for the B2B customer base. And so what ends up happening is a lot of these, the use case for some of the technology that we're talking about today was technology that was used. It never saw, like, consumers, end users never saw these items being used. The Windows mixed reality experience. I was part of Microsoft's first HoloLens Academy. The boutique that I was working with at the time was invited as one of 8 companies to come in and learn how to use the HoloLens. I don't know if it's 1,000 hours, but it's several hundred hours in the HoloLens 1, and I watched the evolution of this toolkit and everything go by, and I used it to create things for business cases, for business clients that we built stuff. And I feel like Microsoft really just dug in hard on the B2B and not the B2C. And so consumers didn't get to see the fruits of a lot of the labors that occurred in the development process for the Windows mixed reality, the infrastructure, the toolkit, all the pieces that come together. But as a person who had worked in it, it was very easy to use. There was a very small amount of investment needed. You could go get yourself a cheap $100 Acer Windows mixed reality headset, back in the day, and it was easy to develop for it, and you could get 85% of it done before you even touched a HoloLens. Next thing you know, you have something that can be deployed to an AR headset. I think that, on top of the fact that knowing that the headset itself was not, that the HoloLens was never Well, okay, depending on who you talk to and what stories you believe, it was never intended to be a consumer-based product. I've had a few debates about that, but honestly, I don't think that's the case. Maybe HoloLens 2 or 3 or 4 was going to be, but, maybe development didn't go as far as it could have. But with the MRTK, with the toolkit that they had, you could essentially take something that was built for the HoloLens and use it inside of a Windows MR headset. And it worked, except for the fact that you didn't have the pass-through. And this is a great transition into what we're going to talk about next with Apple as well, is, it's like, what was it in The Graduate? I've got one word for you, son. Pass-through. And honestly, if the G2 or if, the Odyssey Plus or any of the other really good Windows MR headsets had good quality pass-through, Microsoft was right on the edge of being very revolutionary if they had just gone for the AR, if they had gone full blast into the AR experience. I don't know if I'm coming across correctly or not, but Microsoft could have very easily had a solid pass-through VR, AR, MR headset tethered to a computer. Granted, I understand that, but it would have been something that would have kept all of this afloat. And now we're all about pass-through. We're all about hand tracking. We're all about not having controllers. We're all about, having an augmented life, an augmented experience. And Microsoft just gave up. They were 50 feet from the finish line, and they just stopped running and turned around and put the towel over their shoulder like, we're out of here. I'm baffled at that because of how close they were to having a decent mixed reality headset that didn't cost you $3,500. You could have done it with something for $400.
All right, so that's so I love Shola Loves Games comment here. I think we do have a clear idea of where Microsoft is going. Partnerships. Microsoft has been very clear for the past few years about waiting and seeing with regards to the VR space. I think we'll see more partnerships, more working on other platforms, less first party. Now, that is spot on analysis of what Microsoft has done. But I think what I'll argue there is it was a failure in VR, right? The wait and see approach of partnerships didn't succeed in VR. They basically said, here's the Windows platform, and you as hardware partners can use it in any range of ways. And I remember going and meeting with the Microsoft people early on, and they basically had no, they left it free range on things like resolution, frame rate, input even, and 6DoF versus 3DoF. Like, they left those all as options for their partners to pick from in sort of coming to the mixed reality platform. And what you had was a whole range of capable hardware that offered you a not great experience depending on what kind of software you were using with that hardware. And, yes, they did this kind of wait and see approach, arguably, by doing that, but it didn't work, right? You had to have all of these things at once. You had to have great content and this minimum bar of tracking quality and features built into the headset, working with that content to have a really phenomenal experience. Now, there's a few exceptions to this, like Microsoft Flight Simulator, right? That's an experience where you could arguably get an okay experience, even in 3DoF. If you're just, sitting in a cockpit moving your head like this, you don't necessarily need leaning, even though I'm going back on like 4 years of what I've said about Oculus Go here. No, I would say that 6DoF would be a minimum there, even for my personal quality preferences, but you don't need the controllers necessarily then. So you could leave the controllers out of the box and have a super high resolution simulator experience for something like a Reverb G2 and maybe get a lower cost device, but one game. You've got one game that fits that kind of platform, ideally, not dozens of games, which is what you've got over on the Quest ecosystem and what you had on the Rift system and over on Steam VR. So there was too much flexibility in the way partners could use the Windows mixed reality platform for VR. They've probably arrived at the same place that Meta has, where you've got to have certain elements here, like 6DoF. You've got to maybe have support for tracked controllers as an optional add-on for lots of great experiences, but for some of the most necessary system sellers. I'll never forget, right? Rift originally shipped with an Xbox controller, right? That partnership was there for a very, very long time. And of course, you now have a partnership brewing in the business space for Meta's headsets. And as I recall, at the end of MetaConnect, there was this tease that maybe sometime in the future, Flight Simulator would work, right? Maybe there is something that could work out here. So I think we're absolutely in the right place here. That partnerships are very, very likely, and given that David is off doing David things, is this a good time to reignite and take my time to talk about the potential of these headsets running on consoles? So I won't talk about the elephant in the room that David and I talk about.
You're not really going to invoke using PSVR 2 on a PC, are you? You're not really.
No, I didn't say it. I didn't say it. I didn't go there. What I'm going to ask is, what is the harm of a Quest connecting to an Xbox?
There's no harm in doing it.
To Microsoft. What does Microsoft benefit from a Quest connecting to an Xbox?
They don't. Well, you'd need some sort of in between. I mean, natively that wouldn't work. You'd have to have some sort of in between. So, but you're asking, if you're asking why Microsoft would object to something like that, they don't care. They don't care because they know that the number of people who are going to do it is so small that it's not. See, that's Microsoft's problem with everything, though, isn't it? Is that they're too focused. It's a bunch of old guys in gray 70s cut suits that are sitting around trying to figure out how best to get their new amazing hardware into the hands of businessmen to build for other businessmen. And they're not thinking about. They don't care. They're not having that conversation, and they don't care who connects what to their Xbox. That's not a money maker. That's not a big deal. That's not a government contract. Microsoft only cares about the thing that's going to give them the biggest amount of money at one time. There's 12 people who have considered plugging their headset into an Xbox, maybe 13. I don't know, and they're probably all in our comments right now.
Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, Minecraft. Between those two, you've got an enormous user base of people that would love to do those things in VR on an Xbox with a Quest.
I disagree with you. I think the number of people who play the flight simulator, sure, there's a group. Yes, I admit that there's a large group of people who love playing flight sims. But that group of people already has this 18 monitors set up, and there's maybe 5 of them that went out and tried to. Oh, I know I'm being controversial here, but I'm serious. I know people who are into flight sims. I have an uncle who is heavily into flying, and he's a real pilot, and he's got airplanes and all that stuff. And I suggested him the headset, and he's like, I got it all taken care of. I've got this huge monitor set up, little pedals and stuff. Between that and the what kids playing Minecraft, I mean, I play Minecraft as a time killer. I don't play it intensely. I used to, but I don't anymore. And I just don't think that there's enough of a group of people to have this conversation about Xbox with headsets. I mean, I think it's the same group of people who are trying to have a conversation about plugging their PSVR 2 into their computer. I think it's going to happen. I think it'll happen someday, and I think it'll be very wonky, and it'll take all sorts of crazy pieces of equipment to make it all convertible and work, and then at the end of the day, it won't be worth it.
Yeah, I don't know. these arguments get really, these debates get really focused on little things. And, at the end of the day, we all know that standalone is truly powerful, right? We know that, if you go back years, it became pretty apparent that standalone needed to get there. The question was, what was the path? And what I always come back to on all these console arguments is that we're still years from packing a whole Xbox or a PlayStation into a system that runs all, entirely on your head. But we should just move on to Apple pretty quickly here, because
Sure.
One of the features that was in this latest report about the Apple headset is, your Apple headset is actually going to operate as a monitor for your Mac computers. And all these people getting really excited about that, like, oh yeah, like I can't write in my head people getting excited for that, but crapping on this idea that I'm discussing, right? Of hooking up these devices to consoles, right? Like you can't have both. Like you can't both get upset at like this idea and excited about this other idea. But yeah, I think there's a lot of potential for cooperation here. Hey, Guy Godin, the creator of Virtual Desktop, just popped into our comments. Thank you for tuning in. And yeah, we're about to get to Apple and continue this discussion, with these latest details, because I think there's a lot to discuss here.
I currently, on my head right now, am wearing a headset that gives me the ability to see my iPhone through pass-through. It gives me the ability to see my MacBook laptop screen and interact with it with a keyboard. And this is a Meta headset that I have on right now. And I am able to do some of the amazing things that are being advertised that this Apple headset is going to do. And from what we hear, depending on who you believe and what's true, this headset was 50% of the price of what Apple is going to offer for their headset. Now, I'm being told that resolution and processing power and everything else, all the little lines that are on the side of the box to tell you all the cool features, are all going to be superior to what I have on my head. However, this headset is doing it just fine right now. What will having more power offer me? Because right now, the features that I'm hearing as a person, as a person who is very well embedded into this technology and has tried everything that has been out there so far, or at least most of it, I need to know what Apple is going to offer me for that additional, that 200% of the cost that I'm not already getting in what I have right now. And so unless they pull you can play Half-Life Alyx wirelessly while you're driving in the car, I'm skeptical about how big of a deal this headset's going to be. Now, I am playing bad cop here, just so you all know. I will probably buy this headset, but I'm kind of playing bad cop here for the sake of conversation.
All right. So a couple comments here that are pretty interesting. People talking about our mics being crap and how that's unlikely to happen on Apple. I love that. Very fair. And I want to talk about Quentin's comment here. So how quickly does Apple pull support for Meta headsets? No more connecting to Macs or Apple keyboards. Now, I love that question because I understand the sentiment of it, but it speaks to the conflict and the cooperation and the level of, you can't block certain things. So the way the tracked keyboard works, they're using computer vision to find the design of this keyboard and show it through space. And then they're just connecting the headset's just connecting to the keyboard as if it's just any Bluetooth keyboard. And it's this combination of things that makes it like, how exactly would that get blocked? Like, I have a hard time imagining how that would be stopped. Now, as far as loading up the whole Mac operating system and feeding it to the system, like, we've got Guy Godin in our comments right here, the creator of Virtual Desktop, who probably has some very fiery thoughts on this, where, like, he's connecting, when you connect to these systems, you're only benefiting users by letting them take their displays and using them in really unexpected ways or really specific ways. So, like, it doesn't necessarily benefit Apple to start blocking some of these things. The question is, how far can they all take it? Like, how good can it all get? But let me recap here a little bit of the latest news here with Apple. So Apple has reportedly shelved their longer-term AR glasses. So this was a project that was supposedly planned, well, for many years, but it kept getting pushed out further and further. And now it's looking like it's been shelved indefinitely. And here's this comment from Palmer Luckey, the creator of the original Rift concept and a co-founder of the original Oculus, talking about this news and saying, "This is great news. Recycling real-world photons through optical transparency is a technological dead end for augmented reality. Apple focusing on reprojected photons is a brilliant move." Now, this comment is divisive. It's bold.
No, it's not.
Well,
No,
well, all right. So I have a hard time. I have a hard time reconciling this comment with the continuing billions that are being poured into transparent optic AR, right? And this is coming right off of me experiencing Tilt 5 AR, which has got a completely different way of getting the photons into your eyes than all the other AR systems. But this is coming from a person who has a very specific point of view, right? This is a person who helped push consumer VR into the mainstream mindset potentially years ahead of when it really would have been ready. Like this, with the whole Oculus path is there over the last decade. We've talked about it constantly, but, cell phones made super high resolution displays affordable, made all the tracking hardware really affordable. And then you've got these fixed lenses that let you focus in a relaxing way on VR. And it's this great path. But I have all that's true. Like, all the economics are there, but calling it a dead end for for straight transparent optics is really, really hard for me to accept when the mixed reality on the headset we're wearing now is still so problematic, right? I don't like looking through the mixed reality on Quest Pro for extended periods of time.
Palmer is just agreeing with me here. That's all he's doing. He's agreeing with what I have been saying for years now. Pass through. I should have had it put on a t-shirt and worn it to every expo since 2013. Pass through. Because here's the thing. What he's talking about here, this optical transparency, he's talking about waveguide, he's talking about all the things that, like Ant VR, which we'll talk about when we go into our CES stuff. There's, the idea of overlaying augmentation onto the real world. A true AR requires the headset or the device to have a very real world understanding of what's going on, to know, like, there's a chair, there's a table, there's a cat, and to be able to do things like put a cup on the table or put, armor on my house cat as he walks around my house. What's wrong with wanting to have a little miniature battle cat running around, maybe a little He-Man riding on him as he goes through my house? The headset needs to understand what that real world looks like. And so it's already going to have to take an image and then augment on top of that. Why try to make something that can't handle opaque, it can't handle true black, it can't handle motion with a good enough FOV? Why go down that path when you have a very easy and obvious reprojected photons? All he's saying is pass through here. Why not go that route until, now he is saying dead end. Not sure about dead end, but I wouldn't put my money on it. I'd put my money on the reprojection.
So Geek Odin's in our comments complaining about your mic. So I'm gonna try to remind you to
yes, keep it down. Sorry.
Let's talk calmly because we're all Quest Pros.
We
can't upset it.
Yes.
And then sadly, it's Bradley saying, I'm not even confident in optical AR glasses anymore, but I talk to Carl Gutag too much. So that's the sort of optics expert out there that writes a lot about the optics for AR and VR as well. I get all this. That I don't want to focus too much on this. I guess it's a little bit off topic from what Kyle was saying, but every article I read about all of this stuff doesn't, there's no agreement of terms on things like pass-through as well as AR and VR and mixed reality, right? That's still this ongoing word debate that just it's mind-numbing to talk about after 10 years in this space. But it confuses people when we're talking about products that haven't shipped yet. So when this report came out that the AR glasses project at Apple has been shelved indefinitely, people went, oh, of course they canceled their project again. And this is just so darn funny because people were saying it was going to come out this year. And this report and others have had to be clear, no, we're actually talking about optical, direct optical AR glasses, not what's actually happening, which is VR goggles, glasses, whatever you want to call them, that have augmented reality features on them. That's still happening, right? So to be clear, with anyone who might be confused, Apple, as far as we understand it, is still planning to ship VR glasses this year that are likely in the range of $3,000, maybe $2,000 to $3,000. And they are going to, the latest report is suggesting that they're going to use a combination of eye tracking and finger pinch as the main interaction mechanism for that device. Now, in order to help with heat and to help with comfort, the latest report is that the battery has been taken out of the headset and is now running on a wire, and you're going to wear this really hefty battery in a pocket somewhere on your person, and then that's going to run a wire up to the headset, and that's how you will get VR and AR from Apple this year. Now, I hate this so much because we're dealing with layers and layers of marketing and confusing terminology dreamed up by marketing executives to confuse people about what these things are actually capable of. But the end result here is that Quest Pro, the Vive XR Elite, and this upcoming Apple headset are all the same class of device. They're all high-end mixed reality headsets that offer you a range of stuff from fully immersive, you're in another place, to mixed reality, where you've got your physical environment around you with content layered on top of it. And that's what Lucky is talking about in this quote here. Where we are, though, in this evolution is what is the minimum viable feature set? What do you need to get right about this system for it to be sort of a must-have system. Now, what I've just thrown up here onto our image here is this app that dropped from Apple late last year. It's called Freeform, and it is almost identical to the whiteboard that is inside of Horizon Workrooms. So in Horizon Workrooms, you can now put little sticky notes up onto this whiteboard. You can meet as avatars in space with other people and all look at this whiteboard together over in Horizon Workrooms. And I want to say, I think Microsoft has something similar, very similar to this. I think their mesh system feels like a very similar system to this. This Freeform app integrates with FaceTime, and it works across all Apple devices. So I've been playing with this the last few days. You can throw images up onto one of these whiteboards. You can write on them. You can put sticky notes, obviously. You can even throw videos up onto this whiteboard and then resize them really quickly. Google has something like this and has had something like this for years. I think it's called Jambox. And it's used, they even sell like a specialized giant screen that you can roll into classrooms as this classroom solution to this thing. And the idea being that a whole bunch of people can simultaneously contribute to this one surface, ideas, and jot them down all at the same time. When I see this as a, I hate to say killer app, but it might be a killer app.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No.
All right, we'll see. We'll see how big this comes.
This is them trying to tell us that this is a killer app, that this is a mandatory thing. It's not. This is not a killer app. This is just something that should just exist, like walking into a bathroom and there's no sink, you know. You need to have this. This is not a killer app. This isn't going to draw people to a piece of technology.
What does you need to have this mean then?
Okay, you need to have this is not the same thing as a killer app. A killer app is something that brings people to. People go to use the bathroom because they have to use the toilet, not necessarily the sink. The sink is there as just an obvious thing that needs to happen next. This is just an obvious thing that needs to exist. This is not the thing that's going to bring people to the technology. The killer app is where somebody drops everything that they're doing and go, oh, I have to have that. And then they go to it. And this is not that.
All right. Well, that's the weirdest conjecture of terms. Like, okay, all right, fine. Take your...
Well, I mean,
the fact
think
that
about
this
it.
is, or I'll call it the fact that this is cooperative, right? You and I could be in completely different parts of the world. And one of the things that has been reported out here is that Apple is working on something extremely similar to the codec avatars that we've seen out of Meta Research. And because of the incredible processing required to make those things run, those will only be supported supposedly in one-to-one interactions. The killer app is going to be co-watching and co-presence. That is the reason VR exists. That's the superpower. That's the thing that these marketing executives have used. Defy distance is the way they've referred to it over at Meta. I've heard from Valve people over time talking about the collapsing of distance. Collapsing distance, bringing people together who are far away, is the killer app. The question is, what features do you need to have in order for that to be a reason to put on the headset? Like, yes, you've had that for decades already via the internet. You could argue all of this stuff going back a long time is all about collapsing distance, right? Being able to like play a massively multiplayer online game 2 decades ago was co-presence. What I'm talking about is watching a synced up movie, listening to a synced up song, playing karaoke in VR, and yes, drawing on a whiteboard together and throwing up images and hashing out ideas. Now you can call call it a problem that I'm calling it a killer app, but the co-presence, the ability to do this stuff even though you're far away is going to be incredible. And having one of these boards up in my living room, or having one of these boards right above my desk, and someone can come and put a new sticky note up there for me at any time is going to be awesome. The idea that this could have widgets one day, or that I could have 6 of these all organized around my house in different ways. It's really getting to something I've been talking about for a very long time on this show, where like, I'm sick of having windows that I have to fit all of my content into. This is a board that I can fit any size I want onto my existing walls and then throw all the content into it. And I can take the boards from one room. I can have multiple copies of these boards. That the writing is almost literally on the wall, that all of these companies are working towards similar solutions here. Now, all I'm arguing here is that Horizon Workrooms, right? They gave you a virtual office, or like virtual meeting rooms. Like, let's give you a collection of 3 or 4 various office scenarios to come and have a meeting at, and let's give you this whiteboard over there. And the only thing you can do with this whiteboard is like sketch on it a little bit. That's not hugely useful. Like, not all my ideas are going to be just sketch outable. Some of them are going to have to be typed out. Some of them are going to be photos. Some of them might even be videos. It's more extensive than that. I just love this idea that Apple is disconnecting. This to me is both a toy and a work tool. And that's what the iPhone was. That's what a computer is. That's fundamentally like, it's not just for work, but Meta did this approach of like, let's take the concepts of work and go kind of literal with it. And I think that was the wrong approach. But come back and tell me I'm wrong if this doesn't work in the Apple headset.
So a few things here, because you've kind of touched on a couple pieces. First of all, I want to ask you a question, Ian. You've got quite a number of people that you know that are in VR, that spend a lot of time in their headset, as do you, as do I, as the other members of our team, and all of the folks that are in here watching and listening to this show right now. I'm just kind of curious. When was the last time that you co-watched something with any number of people?
Last 6 months, yeah, I did do it.
You did it once in 6 months? Because that sounds like a real killer
I also
app.
did it in big screen a few more recently. It's not great.
Yeah.
The experience isn't necessarily great. And also getting everyone on the same platform capable of this is an extraordinary difficulty. Over on Apple, like, if you subscribe to Paramount Plus the wrong way, it didn't enable this functionality, right? Like, there's multiple ways to subscribe to the streaming service on Apple devices, and I subscribed to it the wrong way, and it wasn't enabled for their share play ability, right?
That's right, because that's a feature as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to do it right.
I struggle.
It's a pain in the butt, right? Like, of course.
I struggle with the idea that the shared experience, my wife and I going to a restaurant and sitting down and eating oysters for the first time, or eating, foie gras for the first time. That's a shared experience and something that's very memorable and very exciting. And for foodies like me and her, we love that. But you can't simulate that yet. And so these companies are jamming down our throat that the killer experience, a shared experience, that social. And I've always been a big proponent of social, but I don't think social is a shared experience. I don't think social is the killer app.
I don't think social is a shared experience? Okay.
No. I don't think social is the killer app. I think that
I don't think social is the killer app. All right, we'll put that one in Kyle's quotes file.
I think it's just a mandatory thing that it has to exist. It shouldn't be considered a killer app. It should just be killer. It's like a power cord. You
I
have to
think
have
you
a power
just hate
cord
the
from
term killer
electronics.
app. I think that's what you're taking issue with.
You know what?
there.
Actually, yeah. You know what?
All
Maybe
right,
I do.
yeah.
But the other thing I
We
want
got
to talk
the core of it
about
there.
and I saw Bradley made a comment about this as well, about the Kodak avatars. And sorry, Bradley, that you and I didn't connect. I was really looking forward to meeting you at CES. But I'm waiting for Apple to come out and okay, now this is my prediction. Apple comes out and says you don't need anything below the waist in your avatars, because really when you sit down at somebody like where you and I are sitting right now, our feet don't need to move, our heads, our hips, our legs, our feet, they don't need to be there. And so Apple will come out and say that the Kodak avatars don't need legs or feet, and everybody will be okay with it all of a sudden. That's my prediction. Write it down. I said it today.
All right. Well,
Apple will say we don't need legs, and suddenly it'll be okay.
So I'm gonna go back and say, all right, fine. I won't use the word killer feature. The biggest market for VR and AR technology over the long term is going to bring people who are physically distant together, so they feel like they're in the same place and participating in the exact same activity. Walkabout mini golf. Big screen, I'm seeing Shola saying big screen weekly shows with friends in big screen. It is the fundamental core reason to use these devices is to get and do activities with people who aren't there with you. This, you could look at this and say, yeah, that's not my cup of tea. I don't know. This looks like a blank slate that looks pretty compelling to me, and I'm seeing 4 or 5 different companies out there that are all doing similar ideas here.
Ian, before we go any further,
I noticed that the karaoke one, right, built into Apple's system, they have this feature now on Apple Music where you can turn down the voice track of certain percentage of the Apple Music tracks. That is one step on the road to remotely sync together karaoke, right? Like you're saying it needs to be a feature everywhere. I'm agreeing with you there, but it's I don't know. It's like it's absolutely so fundamental to everything in the future of these technologies. The internet brings people who are far away together at times and places where they aren't actually able to do that. And VR and AR headsets, these next generation of devices, are doing it in better ways than we've ever encountered before. What I keep coming back to, what I'm trying to get across, is what's the minimum feature set that's going to sell millions of devices? And, you're taking issue with the terminology here, but this is one piece of it. All the other things we're talking about here, watching movies, listening to music, singing songs, producing music, they're all pieces of this future where, like, you're not constrained to the people who are physically close to you, right? You can go and find the 20 other fans who love your specific genre of movies that you love, and you can have weekly showings with them and all sit like, you're together. But do you get to look over and see their real expressions on their face? Or do you get this AI avatar faked one? And how fundamental to the overall experience is it to see their actual facial expressions? How much nuance and like serendipity is enabled by being able to, flip those things off and on at any time, and then actually able to kind of like have those amazing moments where people like do something unexpected and it's pretty funny.
Ian, do we need to mention our sponsor once more?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about that real quick here before we get back to the show. Veil VR just released its early access on Steam. It's a VR first-person shooter built with immersive physics, full-body animations and skins. Climb, vault, ride zip lines, and defy gravity on jump pads to achieve victory in this 5x5 competitive shooter. Veil VR was built from the ground up with the community's input. Very cool. Every step of the way. From standardizing player height to preventing play space cheats, this game has made huge improvements to the standard VR first-person shooter experience. It's available now on Steam. And they've got esports tournaments starting very soon. Get ready. Find out more. Check out their Steam page. There's a link to it in the description of this video below. So Ian, I don't know what to do, Ian. I'm just gonna have to start like not talking at this point because everything that I say is like it really is kind of frustrating. It's very frustrating because I am an emotive person and I love to shout even if the microphone is right here in front of me, and I don't know whether it's settings or just crappy hardware, but whatever it is, I should be. No, by the way, somebody asked this question. You cannot use an external microphone with the Rift or any of the Meta headsets, really. I don't think you can. Could you?
Unless they've added it quite
Quest
recently.
Pro?
We've tried it over the years and it's not been there.
Yeah.
Quentin saying, "Oh God, I feel like Kyle just assaulted my soul through my ears."
I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I know. I had that same feeling, and I think maybe that's why I'm a little agitated. You know, he's like yelling at me about killer apps, and also this is my point, Kyle. Right? Like, what is the minimum microphone quality to make us want to spend 2 hours doing something, together, right? Clearly, this microphone, like something is wrong in this microphone setup that makes this bad. Every week we get comments from people who are like, there was one cracked me up, said, "It's really funny to see two Legos talking about technology this way." And I love that comment. It's like talking about our ridiculous avatars. Like, we're very aware of just how limited all of this is. But if you listen to the words we're saying, you listen to the way we're analyzing this technology, a lot of this stuff can become background, as David has talked about in the past, to the content, to the larger thing we're doing. And you need a microphone that meets a minimum viable quality bar. You don't want to be hearing the people at the next door. You don't want to be hearing the living room TV. But this is, I guess, what I'm trying to get at, right? Like, if you go back and listen to Xbox 360 online gaming, right? People playing Xbox Live, and you see the recorded videos that someone captured 15 years ago on that system. It's almost unwatchably bad how bad the microphones were back then, how bad the recording quality was. But people still did it. It was still a viable market. And now it's that much larger of a market. And the only thing that has changed is the quality of all of the underlying systems, right? And this is where we are. We're on the cusp of this getting to a place where, you're going to have millions of people drawn in different ways into having these interactions. Like, I'm a broken record on Walkabout Mini Golf. Fill in your bingo cards on this subject. But when you can have Walkabout Mini Golf on an iPhone, and you can get your 4 friends into the same session of Walkabout. 2 of you are in VR headsets, and 2 of you are on, one of you is on an iPhone and one of you is on an Android phone. Like, it's going to be compelling, right? It's going to keep people coming into those devices. Is it as good an experience on a phone? Probably not. But the ability to bring those people together and do those things is going to catch on more and more and more with each passing generation.
Really sad, because this has been a solid, good conversation that has been marred by my $1,500 microphone, head-mounted microphone. That needs to stop. That we're going to need to figure that out, because it's really rough. All right. Well, we always go long whenever you and I do an episode, Ian, but I don't want to not do
CES.
the CES. I definitely want to go through it because I think there's some really cool stuff.
I want to mention
that we
Bradley's
did.
comment real quick. If you want to have the best social VR headset, which is what Meta wants, you should be targeting the Valve Index microphone territory. Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And yeah, let's talk about CS. I think first up, Holoride, right? I have an image of you in Holoride, which is the most Kyle image I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So my wife came along as a videographer and photo and videographer, and so all the things that you see here that I'm in, I did not take those photos. And so we were in the back of a 1967 Cadillac DeVille convertible that had the Holoride retrofit experience. So basically, what it's doing is it's sending 3DOF information from an IMU on the head on the front of the car, just a little suction cup on the windshield, and it relays that data back to the HCC Vive Flow that I'm wearing here, which is connected to the phone that very, very nice employee of Holoride Experience walked me through all this, and I was playing Pixel Ripped while I was driving around, and Holoride is just a fantastic experience. Yes, reminds me of The Dude. Yes.
I love
honestly,
that.
Yeah, it felt very Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas to me. Hunter S. Thompson kind of thing. And so that's kind of what I was shooting for.
You were right outside of Barstow when the drugs started to take hold.
Pretty much. But yeah, this is great. I mean, I love the reflection in I don't even know what that says in my reflection. I thought maybe this would become like a meme and people would put different reflections in the I don't know. Have fun with all of this. I'm sure there's plenty of things you can do. But yes, it was very The Dude as well, somebody pointed out. But yeah, I love this shot. I think it exemplifies my experience at CES this year. Lots of fun potential, lots of fun, exciting things, and a little bit more pizzazz in terms of the look and feel of things. It's not so clunky. CES 2023 made me feel like the future won't be as clunky as it once looked to me.
Yeah, so going back a couple of years, we had that Panasonic VR glasses demo that was shown off at CES right before, sometime before COVID hit. And it was the first one that I really felt like, yeah, these look cool, right? These big shiny fronts. And it was kind of wild to see multiple designs from multiple companies on display at CES that were like consumer ready or at least business ready devices, full platforms, not just conceptual designs. And this was the Vive Flow, right? So this is not their new XR Elite system.
No, it's not.
And what I thought was so interesting is, so Kyle went through in this open air design. I went through inside of one of the Audi, I think it was an Audi car, but it was contained, right? I had a roof over my head, and I did a very similar demo. They showed me two games. They showed me a game from Shell Games, and I think it was Cloud Breakers. I think that's what it was called. And then I saw AR Vor's Pixel Ripped 1995. They had basically a customized game. I think it's On the Road. So they had built a game just for Holoride. And these two games, I apologize, by the way. I've been sick the last few days, so I've got a stuffy nose. So you'll have to forgive my nasally voice. But those two experiences were phenomenal. And what gets me about it is I am this broken record talking about how crummy 3DOF is, how uncomfortable 3DOF is, going back to Oculus Go and earlier. And this headset and the way they had built it was technically giving you, it was 3DOF tracking, right? But they were getting enough sensor data, enough movement and GPS data piped from their system. So in my car, it was coming from the car. It was being fed from the car. And I believe in Kyle's car, it was being fed from this retrofit kit that Holoride is selling now for a couple $100 or several, quite a bit if you're buying the whole kit with the VR headset. But you can bring your own headset and system, I think, to their subscription service, and then it's only a couple $100. But it's getting enough data from that stream, and they've got this SDK to compile all that data and feed it to the headset, that you're moving through the world in what feels like sick stuff. So your whole car is moving through the world in a manner that's like being replicated for what you're feeling, close enough that even if you can't lean around and see your movements matched, your body and all the feeling that you're getting out of bumping along in the car on the drive is matched up to the visuals enough that it feels perfectly comfortable. This entire experience from front to end, I didn't feel the need to take the glasses off. It was about 20 minutes. And Holoride was telling me that they think that's about the average commuter trip is about 20 minutes, at least in the United States. So what they've proven out here is how to make a comfortable car ride on hardware that doesn't necessarily need to be sixed off capable, which they can change that down the road. They can maybe support that. But it was a really, really fascinating, cool experience. And I want to talk, what games did you try, Kyle?
So I only did the Pixel Ripped because I didn't go too deep into it because I was having too good of a conversation about the science of this. And so for those of you who are familiar with the concept of proprioception, I'm going to put on my Bill Nye the Science Guy hat here. Proprioception is your body's perception of the movement in relation to what you're actually doing. And so you have little hairs in your ears, and if you ever get motion sickness because you're on like a boat, it's because you're moving and the little hairs are moving, but because you're on a boat, you don't feel the movement. You think that you're static. And so that disconnection between what's really happening and what your body sees and what your body feels is two different things. It causes sickness. Now, VR sickness is the opposite. You're not moving, but your eyes think you are because you can see movement. And so what Holoride does is basically give you data that allows your brain to see the movement that also matches the movement of the actual vehicle itself. And then you still have your yaw, pitch, and roll, your head, your neck movement while you're sitting in the car. And so the experience that I had was me as a kid sitting in a back seat playing a video game, which I had done 1,000 times as a child, and then the streets moving. And, my driver, who was totally awesome, I think it was his car, which it was a great car to do this in. He's like, we're about to make a big turn. And as we did, the experience turned with it. And I was just like, it was perfect. And I did let my wife try it, and she usually gets really bad motion sickness from doing VR. 15, 20 minutes into it, she's ready to call it quits. She did it with very little issue and even said herself afterwards, wow, that was better. And so this is solving a problem of using a VR headset while in a moving vehicle. That's the exact question that this product is answering, is how do I make this comfortable? This is the solution. And I think it's right there. I think it's right where it needs to be, honestly.
Yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. Guy Godin saying the moving street cars landscape around you is probably a hard problem to solve for sixed off, and that is exactly right. If you have used a modern headset in any kind of a vehicle, that can become uncomfortable real quick. As soon as your car turns, the mismatch gets really ugly really fast. The Pixel Rip 1995, I talked about this in my article. You've got a gamepad in your hand, and I was sitting in a similar seat to her. So I was sitting like you were in the back right-hand seat, in the pixel-ripped 1995 on-the-road game that they had built, you're moved into like the center seat. And so seated in front of you is your dad in the driver's seat, mom up in the passenger seat, and they're having a conversation up there. Dad's driving around, doing his thing, driving around the streets of this like wintry environment. And you're playing this handheld game. So you see your hands are holding this gamepad, this game system that might as well have been like a Game Boy Color or something, and you're holding a gamepad. It's close enough that it feels incredibly good, right? It feels really, really great.
Yeah.
And then you can press a button on the gamepad to sort of put down the virtual controller and pick up like this little shooter gun and point the shooter gun out the window and fire little things at the environment. One of the things that they explained to me, and they're exploring the whole idea of sick stuff, but the effect that this has is they were saying that if they try to do hand tracking or they try to do controller tracking or even sick stuff, the person is very likely to just smash the window, just like you smash your TV or all those videos of people smashing their TVs. So this just felt like a really, really great combination of everything, right? Like I just loved, I love the solution that they've arrived at here for this problem. Echoing exactly what you said.
We when we sat down to do the interview with these guys at CES, it was funny because I had made a comment and you had attributed it to one of the developers in the article. And I was like, no. I said that. I called this road scale. And so, we've got room scale and this is road scale. And I thought that was a pretty funny and clever term, which didn't make it into the article. Totally understand. I said it. They didn't.
It did. I used it.
Oh, did you use it?
One of my favorite commenters, I love this. One of my favorite comments that we've ever had on our website was from this generation of people fighting over Rift versus Vive, the original generation. And the person was like a Vive fan, and they called the Rift rug scale.
Oh.
And it was such a good burn.
I like that. I like how something in front of the word scale is suddenly like a thing. It's going to happen.
Well, it's really cool to think about what devs could do with this. I would like to see them, if they can support multiplayer. I'd be curious if they can build that as a really good part of their SDK. And they have a system, I think, built into their SDK where you can do like a simulated route. But I had this like, it was funny to me to imagine like a dev out there like, honey, can you go drive me around? Because I got to play test my game. And they go do a 20-minute drive around the city to test it out. But like, I want to see multiplayer supported in this. I'm really curious to see what can happen there. And then if you can feed this I think they said that this is built into their platform, but if you have a smart game, or you build a lot of games around this idea, if you know what the route length is supposed to be and you know the traffic is to get there, like if you can estimate that you're going to be in there for 30 minutes, you could theoretically time like boss battles or levels to be lined up with your route so that the game ends or your playthrough ends right as you're getting there, or maybe even environmental factors could like be complemented by what you're seeing.
Games at the red lights, the duck hunt at the crosswalks. I mean, there's all sorts of things that they could do. Of course, the killer app with this would be multiplayer in the back seat, sharing a whiteboard, right, Ian?
Ben, all right, so Ben's comment here, as this use case is being described, I can't imagine anyone ever doing it. I think that's fair too. I think that's something to think about. What is the market for this? I think it's remarkable to me because as people who have watched this year in and year out, I've seen people try to do this, again and again, and it's always been terrible. Like I've seen people try to do the pass through in the driver's seat of the car to just show that it's possible. And it's like, oh my gosh, how dangerous could you possibly be?
Yeah, it's bad. Don't do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's it was cool to see they'd solved this problem. Now the question is, how big of a market could they actually achieve with it?
This is one of those things where I live way out in no man's land, about 45 minutes to an hour away from any real civilization, intentionally. And, my kids are on their phone the whole time we're in the car. And so to me, it makes perfectly good sense to have something like this be available, especially for kids who are into VR. They would love this. So there is a target audience, All right. Okay, well that was Holoride. That was good, Ian. I think we covered it. I'll be keeping my eye on this tech.
Yep,
definitely.
I'd very much like to see it next year. I hope that there's I'd be curious to see what another year of development can do.
And to all the folks that are making comments about like, it's terrible that if you get on a car wreck or anything. I mean, if you were asleep, if you were reading a book, if you were on your phone watching YouTube videos, it's exactly the same thing. I mean, there's not more liability unless the driver is being silly and trying to do this, which I can't imagine anybody wanting to do.
I think our microphones are currently turning people off of buying Quest Pros, so that's fair. We need to get you you said you did have wind blockers on there?
I have it's not a wind blocker. It's an adhesive.
Oh, the tape thing.
Muting thing, yeah, and it's apparently not working. So, okay, let's move on to the next item.
That's the problem is when you talk like that, you can't keep it up. So you lure people into a false sense of security.
And they'll turn their volume up, and then
and then you attack them. You attack them right in the ears. All right, yeah, I definitely want to talk about haptics because that was pretty cool. I've got a couple videos here for us to show here of Kyle and I trying haptics. But let's first can we talk about Context CI first? Because
absolutely,
I don't remember actually getting your impressions of the Context CI system.
So here's what's fun about just hand haptics, tracking, tension, all the things that you want. That's HaptX. Yeah, but with Context CI, so they're a younger company in this field. They're based in Cincinnati, which my hometown. So awesome for them. How fortunate for them that I'm so close. But they are right behind in terms of technology where some of these other companies are, in my opinion. They're hitting thresholds and bars that I've seen other companies in the field also hit. And a lot of the same challenges occur, and you tackle them and you move past them, and it evolves. And so what we have here is a company that's biting at the heels of all of these other companies that have been around for a couple more. They have a few years head start. But I think Context CI has a real chance to be a contender in the space. Now, keep in mind that these are not consumer-facing products just yet. The company that gets it, small, compact, easy to put on and take off, that's the company that's going to be the one that goes, hey, I think I might be able to sell a consumer version of this headset. It's just not there yet, or not headset, but gloves. Sorry, not headset. But yeah, I think. Well, Bradley, I'm going to disagree with you. Sadly, it's Bradley here says that consumer VR gloves are an oxymoron in his opinion. If you had asked me years ago, I probably would have agreed. But I have felt and seen things that have shown me that there's a real possibility for haptics, gloves that do things that make you feel like you have something in your hand. I've felt things and I've experienced things that really make me believe that it's possible someday that we'll get there eventually. I think there's a video, Ian, I don't know if you have it, of me actually using This you don't have that one? Okay.
I didn't get that video uploaded. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fine. But I
These are
feel
the
like
older ones that David tried
right.
previously.
So I feel once we get to a point where you can put it on and it goes and it like sucks on.
It's Kyle's internet. Am I still here? Let's see. Yeah, I think I'm still here. So Kyle must have done the magic hand signal to warp out of reality. Oh my gosh. Is my audio good? Am I not popping? Am I not blowing out people's eardrums? I don't know what's magical about my system. I'm using a Quest Pro 2 it doesn't really happen as often with my system. So I think Kyle was leading up to this because it was the coolest thing in this demo for me. These gloves seemed to wiggle onto my hand to get the fitting right at the start. And it reminded me of Back to the Future Part 2, where Marty tries those futuristic sneakers and they automatically like fit to him, and I think even his other clothes automatically fit to him. It felt like the glove was sort of wiggling onto my hand, and it was a really, really neat feeling right at the start of this. That's the most memorable part of my thing, my demo with Contact CI this time around. You know, this technology, all the haptic technologies are kind of like on the 10 to 15 year like maturity route. Like this is going to get better over a very, very long period of time. We are a month away from having the adaptive triggers on the PlayStation VR 2 that kind of push back your fingers a little bit, just like the the newest PS5 controllers, the DualSense ones, just like those do. Those will be in there. There's also head haptics in the PSVR 2 headset. There's pretty good haptics, really nice haptics. I was noticing pretty recently the menu system. If you're using the Pro Touch controllers on a Quest system and you go through the menu and you scroll over like the boxes they have in the menu, they're actually able to like make the controller vibrate on like the left side or the right side, depending on which side of the box you're rolling out of onto the next box. And that was a really, really cool effect. But that's where we are with haptics, is that's the limit of how good they can do it. This is the stuff that we imagine is going to get way slimmer over the period of, let's say, something like 10 years. But Kyle, I stole your thunder a little bit, I think, talking about the Back to the Future self-fitting gloves while you were, whatever happened to you.
Well, I'm in the Midwest, and I'm in Ohio, and there are some snowstorms coming through, and being out in the very ruralest of rural areas, our power flickers on occasion, and it was just enough to flip the switch on the interwebs for me. So I was without internet for like 10 seconds. It was scary.
Daniel, I don't know if I can read out your comment, because there's a double meaning in there that was pretty impressive.
There is definitely some.
Yeah, I have to give notes that I'm noticing it. But yeah, I'll notice that quote, Daniel. That's it's impressive.
Actually, that'd be a good name for the product.
Oh.
Innuendo. Yeah. Can we take a look at the HaptX then?
Yeah, let's go to haptics, because haptics was, as cool as that was, of it wiggling onto my hand and like that feeling. The haptics demo was something I hadn't really experienced quite that degree of quality, of even multiplayer. This video is like 5 minutes long, so I'm gonna let that play in the background. And then I've got a shorter version that shows kind of one of the coolest moments in here, and I'll throw that up in a minute. But Kyle, you want to talk? You've been following these people for a really long time.
I have.
Yeah.
So basically, HaptX is tackling this from a little bit different perspective than some of the other companies are. They're actually they've got little bubbles that expand and contract on your hand, and the more bubbles, the higher the resolution, I guess is the right word to use. they've taken this
The
from
number of bubbles would be related to the resolution, but
right,
they can
correct.
adjust the height. I think would be the equivalent of changing colors.
Sure, absolutely, yeah. So there's been, when I was talking about Contact CI, I said that they're slightly behind some of these other companies like HaptX. These guys have been doing this for a long time now, it seems like, and I've been watching them from the very beginning. I can remember one of the representatives who's a good friend of mine. He comes up and he says, "Come here. I've never heard of this company. I've never heard of the product." He's like, "Come here, come here." He takes me, and we're at a little expo that was happening at Seattle. Actually, it was in Redmond, I think. And he's like, "Come with me." And we go down a hallway and upstairs and into a room. And he's like, "Here." And there's this like weird box sitting on a table. He's like, "Put your hand in that box." And I'm like, "No, you put your hand in that box." He's like, "No, do it." So I put my hand in the box. And he's like, basically a spider crawled across my hand. And I was just like, what just happened? And so he basically said, this is the beginnings of the technology that we're going to put into a glove for haptics. And he showed me all this other stuff. And yeah, I'm really glad I put my hand in that box, because ever since then I've been invited to try different versions of their technology. It's been really fun to watch, talking to there's some really smart people working on this project. It's a really great company, and they've iterated and they've got big ambitions. I've seen some of the information that they, things that they want to do in the future. And it's very, very big and bold, ambitious stuff. It's very next level sci-fi type of stuff, in my opinion. And that's where I kind of get excited about the idea of haptics, not necessarily as a consumer product, not yet, but it's definitely, companies like this need to exist and do their thing to get us to the point. Like, some people have to walk so others can run. And I think that that's where we're at with, haptics, Context CI. They're all kind of shooting for that same objective. They want to be able to, have us feel things that aren't real. And yeah.
So Daniel, you're on a roll there on the comments there, and I will. I love James and your mom mentioning "I hold at your neck the Gom Jabbar." Yeah, Dune and the box that you put your hand into that gives you pain. Absolutely. That's what I always thought when you were describing that. Yes. To be clear, so what we had here was a networked physics-based experience where Kyle's over here stacking blocks, I'm over here stacking blocks. And we're networked. This is in real time. I could look over to my right and see Kyle's headset sort of doing the, just see his movements, his head movements matched. And then I could, this is where we start interacting with each other. And this is the video I'll throw up in a minute when this cycles back to the start. This is still in the category of costing many thousands of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, however, their newest generation, the one that they're rolling out this year, puts this compressor box, the video's done now, puts this compressor box into a backpack. So now this whole unit can pair with like a standalone device. And then you've got this backpack now that's no longer doing the processing, which is what we had last generation. Now it's actually providing you kind of air, right? It's providing you the bubbles. It's feeding those bubbles exactly what they need to be fed to provide a great experience. So this is the section near the end of Kyle and my demo that really, really did blow my mind a little bit, where he's holding a virtual block in his hand and dropping it into my hand. So I feel, as a second after he drops it, I feel a little vibration in the palm of my hand. I do the same thing, and actually I'm trying to like juggle or toss these things, and I toss Kyle a block into his hand, and he feels it collide with his hand. One of the things we did here was Jenga. And the effect of like holding a Jenga piece in between my fingers here. So I felt like a constant pressure pushing against my fingertips as I'm moving this block onto this tower that you're playing, that you're also doing this on. And it's just fantastic. It was really, really well done. But yeah, this moment of Kyle and I interacting is the kind of magic you can only experience at a conference like this, going to these events where these people are trying to demonstrate this for use cases that consumers aren't going to pay money for. But for certain applications, this might be interesting to explore. I have a hard time saying this is so good that it would be fantastic for this specific use case, but it's still really interesting work, and we've been blown away by them in the past. Things like remote controlling robotics and being able to feel what the robot feels is where this gets really, really interesting. We've tried demos like that in the past. But yeah, this moment for Kyle and I'm laughing, Kyle's laughing. It was an extraordinary moment to kind of be able to pass these objects back and forth to each other that just felt so physically there, right in our hands. Yeah, the other thing that I think context-wise we should probably give here, and I was sort of trying to get out of them something interesting on this matter, but Meta showed off some of its research for haptic technology, and it's very similar, right? HaptX sent out like a strongly worded letter. They published a strongly worded statement saying, yeah, Meta just showed off this research and it looks a lot like what we've been doing for years. And we're not okay with that was the general gist of the statement. But that's, a strongly worded letter is very different from like suing someone for patent infringement or the like of that. But it's interesting to think that both Meta and this startup were on a path, similar paths.
There's a question here. Does HaptX still demo hot, cold, and other forms of feedback? No. They haven't done that in the last 2 generations, the whole hot and cold thing. They've demonstrated it, and they could very easily do it if they chose to. But I feel like what they've done is it's feature creep a little bit. They've taken out those features because there's not as much of a demand for it. So do these things very well and then maybe come back later and add those. But right now they don't have the hot, cold, but they have had it in previous iterations. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, I mean, all in all, I'm not assuming that any of this tech is going to end up in your hands as a end user customer, consumer watching this show. You're not going to end up with this in your repertoire of hardware anytime soon. It's at least 5 years out.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, I think potentially much longer than that. But we've been to conferences like CGraph, the Computer Graphics Conference, where they've shown all sorts of weather effects. It becomes really interesting to think of like when he's asking about that hot, cold question, like, are we likely to have gloves or are we likely to have consumer wind technology, right? Like which is going to get to consumers first? The ability to set up some kind of like a weather building unit in your play space that blows hot or cold air on you at just the right moment, or are we going to get gloves first? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if either of those are on the same
done demos where there's fans blowing at you, and there's people working on smell-o-vision, and there's
Daniel. Kyle's mic is providing a kind of haptics directed at my ears.
Yeah, see, it's not ASMR, it's KSMR.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I can't wait to hear how bad this sounds.
Oh yeah, you're not gonna stop talking about it for the next week. We're gonna go into Slack and he's just gonna be talking about this nonstop after he listens to himself. Oh my gosh. Yeah, so we'll try to get better demos and better videos of this because you really do want to see this up close, exactly how long the delay is from like releasing something to having the haptic effect. You're talking frames of difference in the video, and I don't know, it's always hard to to convey in any video that we do on this stuff just how great it felt, but it did feel really, really, really
Well,
neat having that
we
level of physics.
we shook hands,
Yeah.
and I mean we've done this before, but it
All right.
really, it
It
felt
felt like
real.
I was shaking hands with a ghost. That's the way I would
Right.
describe it. But
Yeah.
it's better than shaking hands with the open air, right? It was enough to like give me this sense of like I'm shaking hands with an apparition. And I really appreciated that. Like it was better than holding a controller in my hand and shaking that and feeling the controller vibrate. Like I've never had a good effect of holding a controller and having that happen. I know some apps have done that. It's been but this felt better than that whole like handshaking thing I've seen in some.
I really felt that if Ian and I wanted to, we could have had our ghost moment where I could have stood behind him and we could have molded clay together. I'm gonna call HaptX and tell them that that's the demo that they need to give next year at CES 2024. It's the
what?
ghost. The ghost, Patrick Swayze,
gosh.
Demi Moore.
Oh man, our commenters are already talking about your dad jokes. Welcome back for the dad jokes. Yeah, you know what we have to do? Come up with ideas for ways he can tease us all with his terrible mic next week, and turn your frown upside down regarding how this microphone went.
We're gonna figure it out. We're gonna definitely figure it out, and who knows if I'll even be back next week. I think Heaney, after he's done with his super secret high tech project, that he might want to not have me on as much. I think that he's gonna have some regrets on having me take your place. VR, no, AR tattoos. Has anybody done that? Like a QR code as a tattoo, and then it's like, something.
Oh my gosh, the ghost demo. I'm really upset right now. Yeah, there is that. All right, so we're getting close to the end of the show. I'm at 14%. I want to pitch a couple things coming up. We've got Atlantis launching in Walkabout Mini Golf this Thursday. So that is the first $3.99 course, first course that's costing the new amount from Walkabout Mini Golf from them, reflective of their sort of increased ambitions for that game. They've been hiring people and building up their staff, and now they're like firing it on all cylinders to get people building bigger, brighter, better courses. And we've got a tour video already scheduled over on our channel showing through that entire course. We've got the playlist with, I think, 9 or 10 courses now covered in Walkabout Mini Golf, showing the design evolution from just 4 courses over at launch to now licensed courses and this extensive collection. So we'll have that going up at Embargo on Thursday. You can find that video over on, scheduled out already.
Ian, when are we getting an UploadVR Walkabout Mini Golf course?
Oh my gosh. So what I was thinking, Kyle, would be cool is to organize some kind. I've been obsessed with this idea of a pro-am. I like this idea of having VR devs playing with fans of their games and doing that in like a tournament format in Walkabout. I thought organizing some kind of like a pro-am tournament in Walkabout would be like a cool way to like, I don't know, get the whole community together in a way that like I think a lot of people would want to watch those sorts of games being played, the conversations that happen across the course.
Well, if we're going to
I don't think we're getting an upload course anytime soon.
If we're going to do reporting on golf, then I'm definitely going to have to practice this voice here. So as Ian walks up to the tee, the silence, it's palpable. You can hear it, the stress, the tension. Will Ian make this putt? Yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. And then, of course, we're also less than a month away from PSVR 2. We put a tweet out there earlier this week asking to see people's setups where they've got setups ready for their PSVR 2 to plug right in. I saw a couple of tweets in reply that were just kind of cool. It's neat to see like people have their PSVR 1s hooked up still, and like they've got their racing rig set up in their living room, just sort of waiting for the insertion of this new headset right into their setup. We're just a few days away from that.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll just
and
send you a picture, Ian, of the back of my computer with a USB-C port. That's my PSVR 2 setup.
oh my
Is that what you want
gosh.
to see?
Oh yeah, to roast me a little bit before. Yeah, if you complain about your audio quality on Slack, I'm going to complain at you about the dad joke. So, yeah, maybe if we get into a fist fight live on the show, we'll go up to 300 viewers per show.
What would that even look like?
I don't know, right? I don't know.
You know?
If I get really into it, I'll punch my screen, and then you'll hear that, right?
Right. I won't feel it though.
Yeah, we've got a lot brewing. We're also want to mention that we've got Harry and Henry. I think they're getting really close to relaunching the Gamescast. And then, of course, with PSVR 2 launching, we've got a list of all the games that are launching on PSVR 2. There was a new one just added today. Townsman VR is joining the launch lineup for PSVR 2. And I've seen, it's interesting to see kind of like the range of opinions about like whether that launch library is good or not, right? Like it's a lot of stuff people have seen already, but like some of that stuff is going to be at an entirely different level of quality and fidelity than has been possible on standalone. So, and even some games that won't run on standalone at all. It's looking like a great lineup.
So if we're talking about they chose 30 titles, I believe it was, for the PSVR 2 launch. One of them was What the Bat, and I didn't hear any of the people complaining about that being in the lineup. I'm just saying, I looked for it. I looked for everybody complaining that was part of the lineup, and nobody complained about that title. Almost as if it is actually a really good game. Just putting it out there.
All right, some people in our comments aren't going to forgive us for that. I don't really care. Your comments are noted, but I still think it's I still stand behind it, and my reasoning stands. Yeah, we love our children. We love people who have good experiences right off the bat in VR. And What the Bat, it's not just children, it's everyone can have a great experience immediately with that. Demio, I can't wait to play Demio. It was sinking in with me that Demio is going to get a whole nother like giant collection of players who can join in and play games with us and meet up. So I'm very, very excited about that. The commenters, they're just teasing. Yeah, they're just going off now. Sadly, as Bradley says, he's clipping this.
It's good. Hey,
yeah,
I do it. Clip it. Make it happen. Because I'm not.
Yeah, Sampler.
I'm never going to apologize for my comments.
Yeah, Sampler. So people who don't like What the Bat don't love their children. I think that's fair. What do you think?
I mean, you're saying that?
No, Sampler is saying that. Sampler's asking a question.
What if they don't have kids?
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, if you don't love the game What the Bat, you don't love your hamsters.
Yeah, I mean, okay, you don't
love baby elephants. Do you hate baby elephants? Because if you do, then you don't like What the Bat. Baby elephants.
All right.
How can you not like for just cents on the dollar each month you could save this poor baby elephant? They're starting to sound like a Sally Struthers commercial from 1987.
Oh, I'm at 9%. How's your battery at, Kyle?
I just plugged in, so I'm slowly going from 17%. But yes, we should probably end this episode before I start talking louder and everybody goes nuts again.
We're right at the edge where oh my gosh, I almost said every name on staff, where David's timer is going to go. Right. We've got a little timer that shows us how long our show is lasting, and it's at 1:57. And right when it turns over to 2 hours, it goes back to 0 because he didn't expect us to go that long, and we're about to reach that mark. Thank you all for tuning in. We had a lot of people stay for the duration of the show. Our heated battle. You know,
I
can't tell if you hating the term killer app or your microphone is what enraged me, but it's one or the other. It's one of the
Probably
two.
both.
Yeah.
I just want to do a quick shout out to Daniel Leeper. If you're still in the comments, here is your shout out. It is nice to see a lot of the regulars here. I do miss you guys. But don't worry, I'm going to have my own show soon without Ian and without David Heaney. And it would just be me and whatever I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll get there.
We'll have Keeney and I will have our serious Ben Stein and the deep dive conversations, and then you can have your the View and VR show.
Absolutely, except not the View, but something. I don't know. I need a name. I need a name for what the show should be. So if you have ideas, tweet me.
Funky says the Kyle Show.
Just the Kyle Show.
Reverend Kyle Show. I mean, yeah. Kyle,
we'll see.
Kyle Unhinged. Bradley says Kyle Unhinged. I like that one.
But Unhinged, I mean, it doesn't... I need some level of... I don't know. Bradley, you have to come and be my first guest.
Yeah, if he comes on as your first guest, he can name the show. Is that like whatever gets the most votes in the comments? That's
Funky Sloth, actually. What the Kyle? I love that.
The Walking Kyle Untethered. Yeah.
Okay.
Natural Born
Kyle
Kylers.
Untethered is good. James,
we got everyone fired up at the end of this. Goodness.
Yeah. Wow. I love all of these things. Kyle Untethered.
Yeah. I like that.
Kind of like that. Hold on.
Let's
give credit where credit's due. James Out Loud. James Out Loud. You came up with it first. I don't know. That's pretty good. Kyle Untethered is pretty good. Yeah. All right. Maybe. I'll start working on the graphics for it.
All right. Yeah, I'm ready to sign off. I'm going to end the stream soon.
Okay.
Thank you all for tuning in. I'll let Kyle have the last word. All right. I'll see you all in the future. See you next week.
Okay. The last word is pass through. As loud as I can say it, pass through. So long, everyone. See you in the future.